In the build-up to the 2023 general elections, during the campaigns, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, made a promise to the vibrant, youthful population of Nigerians.
Here with the student loan, if you cannot finance yourself.
A cynical section of the Nigerian populace who may have dismissed the pledge by candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that Nigerians were guaranteed quality education in tertiary institutions as a mere campaign promise were soon proved wrong. On assumption of office, as President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed into law the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFUND, on the 3rd day of April 2024. It was arguably the first act of parliament that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would sign into law. It gave credence to his commitment to ensure inclusivity in providing seamless quality education for Nigerians in universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, as well as schools of professional, technical, and vocational studies across the country.
The average Nigerian family has 5 members. 80% of the household income is spent on education, leaving really just 20% for people to try to do the other things that they want to do. There is a real commitment to education in this country. Your Excellency, your visionary intervention by creating NELFUND has allowed education at tertiary level to become affordable and accessible. You brought a brighter future through this program to many, to millions, some of them unborn, by relieving this financial strain. This is all about empowerment. It's empowering through transparent funding and removing financial barriers for educational opportunities for academic pursuit.
Saddled with the onerous responsibility of delivering on the objectives of NELFUND, which include provision of tuition, other fees and charges, including upkeep allowances for students, is the Managing Director, Akintunde Oluwole Sawyer. A Nigerian diplomat and distinguished professional with diverse and uniquely remarkable experience in various fields of human endeavor, Mr. Sawyer was trained in the prestigious University of London Royal Russell School.
We're in a very different place in this country today. We have 200 million plus people, depending where you draw the census figure from. Some reports say that 70% of these people are below the age of 35. The place we're in Nigeria today is that we have a lot of people who aren't able to attain and achieve the education they want simply because they can't afford it. So where they have the desire, the capacity, capability, they just can't get to the institution, get the knowledge they need to improve themselves. And I'll tell you, unless people are educated to the capacity of their desire and their willingness, you're going to get a country with people who are basically walking around frustrated. They're buying their minds and their time to things that they shouldn't. And so, it's not just about the program, it's about the timing of it and where we are today.
As a stickler for the fine details and to ensure that the provision of the law were not burdensome on the beneficiaries, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu returned the bill to the National Assembly and urged that Parliament address concerns observed with regard to flexible loan repayment system, grace period of 2 years after graduation, and gainful employment in order to ease the financial burden on beneficiaries and ensure seamless loan repayment.
There was a previous act that was signed into law by the President on the 12th of June 2023, and that law had a few issues. It asked for corrupt guarantors, it set limits on family income, couldn't get any support if you earned more than a certain amount of money. And as you know, in this sort of hyperinflationary environment, that won't work. There were issues with things like who will qualify for the loan itself. There were issues with the things like upkeep. So that wasn't included in the original. And the president, in his wisdom, even though there was a lot of political pressure for him to launch the program, decided that he wanted to launch it in a way that would capture as many people as is possible.
The National Assembly, therefore, had to reconsider and review critical sectors of the NELFUND Act for final assent by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Eligibility criteria.
This law enables applicants who intend to and have secured admission into a university, polytechnic, or a teacher training college of education. Those are the three categories that this go allows you to apply the funds to in terms of education. So that's the first thing I'll say. That's what's unique about this. Well, what we've tried to do is design a process that is free of human interface. So we have a portal, and if you want to apply for this loan, you go to that portal. When you arrive at that portal, it asks you a number of questions. One of the first questions it asks you is, are you a Nigerian? Because the law says that this loan is for Nigerians. So, okay, great, you're a Nigerian. It then allows you to proceed. And you begin to enter certain pieces of information. The second is, have you got a have you got JAMB admission to an institution? If the answer is yes, you're in luck because you can then progress. Because again, JAMB is the prerequisite for admission. Now, I need to clarify something at this stage. This loan isn't just for new applicants or new admissions, should I say. This loan is for people who apply for this loan can already have been in one of those three institutions. As long as they're in the institution, properly admitted by the institution, that effectively they are eligible to apply for the loan. So, JAMB is pretty important. Again, it's a loan, which means that at some point we expect it to be paid back. So you have to have a bank account. And by that, you mean you have to be financially included. We're not going to receive repayments in cash. It's got to go through a system. It's auditable. We could see what money going out and be coming in. So, you have to have a BVN, and the BVN is the system that kind of captures all of that. But the BVN also allows us, with your signature and permission, to have visibility of what's going on in your account. Because down the line, people have to pay back, and we don't want people playing funny tricks with, I haven't got a job, but this 10 million is coming into my account every month. We want to have visibility because we have people waiting for this loan. We will have people waiting for this loan, and they have to replenish the pot.
Application methods.
This is just a pictorial image of what the students see when they access nelf.gov.ng. A very simple site that allows them to begin to put in details about themselves that shows that they're eligible. They're Nigerians, they're financially included, they have admission through JAMB to an institution, and that there's a matric number, so they've already started an institution, or perhaps they already have admission.
Loan breakdown.
We provide loans at 100% of whatever institution they're going is charging. If they're charging 100,000, that's what we give them. If they're charging 500,000, that's what we give the loan. Very simple reason for that. We've gone to the trouble of having no human interface in the application process. We don't want people turning up at institutions with half the money because they said we should pay half, so they're going to source the other half. The minute we're getting to that situation, if they don't then get the other half, they start to find themselves in difficulties. So we pay 100%, even if they don't want 100%. If they want to make a refund, they can refund it into the loan account. However, we insist that what we're giving you is unfettered, complete access to educational services at that institution. A student can apply for a loan for the institution and not apply for the up top. That's an optional track for this. But the institutional fees is 100% whatever the bill that is provided is. And the bill is provided by the institution. The course is selected by the student or the applicant. On the upkeep side, we have a specific amount. We have a baseline amount that we pay to students every month. That baseline starts at about 20,000. However, what we recognize is that, institutions in inner cities and institutions in rural areas have placed different demands on people study those institutions. In the city of Lagos, city of Kopaman, the city of Abuja, the city of Kano, things are going to be much more expensive than being in Agoiwoye or in a village somewhere somewhere else. See, place like Damaturu, which is in a village, but it's not as expensive as Lagos or Jalingo. So we recognize that this stipend, must have some variability to it, so that we can look at the environment that the individual is having to survive in, and then put some sort of weighting on it.
Repayment provisions.
These loans are interest-free. Okay, so what do I mean by that? The law allows us to charge interest on these loans. But we recognize that there's a large number of people out there who need these funds, but may not be sure about whether to take it or not, because they don't know what they will end up owing in the end. So the loans are, as of today, are interest-free, and anybody who signs up for the loan today will get an interest-free loan for the duration like you signed up for. The second thing is, in terms of repayment, you can repay the loan anytime you have the capacity to repay the loan. You can repay the loan while you're in school, in the institution. However, by law, we only require you to start repaying when you get a job 2 years after National Youth Service Corps. If you get a job before that, it's fine. There's a moratorium. You don't need to repay. But 2 years after NYSC, and I reiterate, I emphasize, if you have a job, then there's an obligation for you to start teaching your kids.
Loan recovery.
The obligation isn't strictly with the employed individual. It's with the employer of the individual. So the employer has an obligation to go to a register, see whether against that NIN number, that individual has a loan with NELFUND. If they do, then the employer is obliged to take a 10% deduction and remit to the NELFUND. If the employer doesn't do that, then they're breaking the law. They will face the consequences of the law. So it's not up to the individual to pay. However, if the individual decides that they want to go be self-employed, in other words, they're working and they're paying themselves, again, 2 years after NYSC, the obligation is there for them to report to the NELFUND to say, I've started a business. It's not profitable yet. I'm not paying myself, so I can't refund. But as soon as I get into a situation where I could give myself a salary, then I will remit this amount to the loan. I should say, we're only expecting it to pay loans if they have an income, not if they're working as a volunteer, if and when they have an income. If they start to make those repayments and they lose their job, the repayments stop.
As an innovative social investment program, which was being introduced into the Nigerian educational system, budgetary provisions needed to be properly defined and realistically articulated. For NELFUND, a sustainable funding arrangement was most crucial and necessary.
The law allows the NELFUND to receive 1% of taxes collected by Federal Inland Revenue Service. So there's some variability there depending on how much they're able to collect, but they give us 1% of all the taxes they collect. Now, you might say, well, okay, is that going to be enough? Well, the law also allows us to go and source the fund from other sources. We can invest the money we have for a return. We can also appeal or work with or partner with others who want to chip in to the work fund. Of course, that's going to require us to be financially prudent. We're going to need to be transparent. We're going to need to have people trust us, obviously, because if there's a trust deficit, we won't be able to raise those funds. So that's also there. So FIRS and funds from other sources, as long as they're legitimate, could get us funds. Of course, remember that a great number of people who take these loans will repay the loan. So you got funding coming back at site. It's also important to remember that if we get this right and people are able to get jobs, are able to create businesses, it means that we're going to get more people paying taxes. Therefore, that FIRS revenue will go up. Therefore, by default, with more people paying taxes, there'll be more and more money coming into the fund. This is a long-term thing. I'm here for a limited period of time. Others will come. Sustainability is critical. You never do anything without projecting 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead. So we're trying to do some of that thinking now. Say, how do we keep this going so that it's not dependent on you, an individual? We want to institutionalize this mentality, this framework, this opportunity. If we can institutionalize it, it will change the face of this country.
A historic step towards ensuring sustainable higher education and functional skills development for Nigerian students and the youth population, NELFUND is governed by a board of directors from relevant ministries, regulatory bodies, and participating agencies, including the Federal Ministry of Finance and Education. The initial challenge to the board and management of NELFUND was getting the buy-in of the motley number of stakeholders, students, parents and benefactors, as well as administrators of the institutions of learning.
When NELFUND came in, for us in the Southeast, a lot of people don't understand it because the Igbo culture believes in the independence of a man. You have to work for yourself, earn for yourself, and you don't depend on the government. So for us as a university, we found out through statistics that a lot of our students still depend on the old method because they are afraid of the word loan. They don't want to take loans because tomorrow government will pursue them or run after them to make the payment.
When it started, people thought, even students and some universities thought that it was just a political statement.
To cultivate the understanding of critical stakeholders across cultural, socio-economic, political, and religious sensibilities and sentiments, the Managing Director, Mr. Akintunde Saya, and his team had to deploy a deliberate policy of constructive engagement.
The federal institutions clearly have to jump on the bandwagon. It's a major source of funding from them because we're paying fees on behalf of their students, if you like, and our fee, what we're paying is a lot more stable and guaranteed than what parents are having to struggle to pay. So the uptake from the federal institution to the support and collaboration has been incredibly good. We're also, and we decided deliberately to stagger this. So we started with federal institutions so that we can get feedback on what we're doing. We can look at our systems, see how well the systems are working. And then we've moved into the state institutions, and then we're calling for applications. Now, one thing that is important for us all to be aware of is that we're dealing with data and, we are making confirmation and making decisions based on data provided to us. So it's not just about their willingness and cooperation. It's also about the completeness of the data they're providing us with, the accuracy of that data. So there are some instances where very enthusiastically institutions have cooperated, they provided us with everything they need, but you just need something to be inaccurate in that data and the student can't go through. One of the issues is that every institution has a different way of keeping its data. We all think differently, we all operate differently, even as individuals. And we need a standardized format. So we've gone to the trouble to say, we have a template, this is what it needs to look like, just give us the data, we'll upload it. And in effect, we're creating a depository, if you like, of data of students in a standardized way. Of course, those students are going to move through every year, about 400,000 students coming into the tertiary sector each year, 400,000 graduating perhaps. Probably not a like-for-like figure, but we get the general picture. So we are effectively building from scratch a database that unifies and standardizes, the data that we require for us to get these loads, but we're also helping the institution. To your question, we're getting the maximum cooperation we can get within the capacity of the individual states and institutions. We can't give what you don't have, but we're getting the cooperation, and we're very pleased with it.
When we got this information, the University Council and the management of the university took a decision to run a university-wide campaign. So we did town hall meeting, faculty by faculty, campus by campus, and later on we cascaded down to department by department. And we had to visit myself as the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, the University Bursar, the University Registrar, practically all the principal officers, plus the student leadership. We had to move in to talk to them, to let them understand that NELFUND, one, it has come to stay. Two, is good for us as a university because the fund we need is coming in. That means we have enough money if our students register properly to pay school, to pay our staff salary and also to run the system and at the same time to give quality education.
It was most crucial and necessary that the Managing Director, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, embarked on a sensitization and stakeholder engagement program across universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and professional skills development institutions nationwide.
We're going to make sure that if you need that money for your education, we're going to make sure you get it. So we have this scheme where we have a portal. How many people here today have actually applied for the loan? Sorry? You have. Okay. Has it been approved? It's pending. Okay, we will unbend it very soon. But the point is, we need, next time I come here to talk to you about the loan, I need as many hands to be up as possible because, as I said, we need you to take this loan. This loan is an interest-free loan. What you collect is what you pay. However far into the future, you have to pay it back. Number one. Number two, you don't have to pay this loan back until 2 years after NYSC if you have a job.
Most remarkably, the sensitization engagement sessions have encouragingly won over quite an appreciable number of beneficiary stakeholders in tertiary institutions across the geopolitical zones of Nigeria.
We are going to collaborate with you for a very aggressive sensitization to ensure that almost all the students of Edo State benefit from this laudable initiative.
With this program, the son of a nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. I'm here to talk to you about the opportunity that has been made available for you to be able to become the very best that you can be. NELFUND is the Nigeria Education Loan Fund. Its purpose is to ensure that anybody who has the capacity, who has the eligibility, and above all, who has the desire to get for themselves education at tertiary level, we at NELFUND will not leave you alone if money is what is stopping you. You know why? It's an interest-free loan. 2 years after you've completed your NYSC is the time that you are required to start paying back this loan when you have a job. They take 10%